Welcome to our next Centre Court MBA Festival session. I suppose one of the aspects of Centre Court in the last 6 or 7 years, with my co-host John, we often think about the convening power and to bring together student voices, voices from career services, of course, the admissions teams, but we're very, very fortunate to also have senior leaders that join us here at Centre Court. And my next guest is from a school that also has extraordinary convening power, whether it's a Nobel Prize winner speaking to the students, or of course the host of the MBA tournament. Any of you that followed John Byrne's coverage a few weeks ago of the MBAT will have seen some of those senior leaders climbing around in the mud, and now we get to talk about it. I'm delighted to welcome Kristine de Valck. Kristine is the Dean of Degree Programs at HEC Paris, which of course includes this top-ranked MBA program. Kristine, you had a shower since that scene in the trench with all of those leaders. That was quite a moment they had at the MBAT.
Absolutely. I definitely had a shower. I enjoyed myself a lot. It was a memorable moment.
Now, it's the single biggest gathering, I think, of MBA students in the world. It's quite an event that HEC Paris puts on every year.
Absolutely, yes. We gathered more than 1,300 students on our campus from 3 different continents, North America, Europe, and Asia. That was the first time that we had such a broad representative of schools. So we were very pleased, and the event, I have to commend all the students who participated for an excellent, sportive and collegial atmosphere.
Right, it's day and night with sports, and then there's poker tournaments and ballroom dancing and everything else. We talk about the MBAT.
Our students, MBA students, are extremely talented, and it's clear that all MBA programs have taught them to do multiple things at the same time. So they crammed a number of events in this 3-day program that normal people would do in a year, I think.
What a fantastic leadership opportunity for all of the organizing students. If we stay with that theme of leadership, you are the Dean of the MBA and degree programs at HEC Paris. What do you enjoy most in your leadership role?
I think really what I enjoy most is the talent of people that I get to work with, both in terms of the staff, the colleagues, the faculty, and obviously also the students. You know, it's a pleasure and an honor, a challenge to be working and leading this big pool of talented people. That is really what I enjoy most, the people that I work with and their talent and their quality.
Right. Well, over the last 18, 19 years, of course, you've had a wonderful career as a professor of marketing. So you've been at the front of those classroom discussions now in this role as the Dean of the program. How do you like to describe HEC Paris and the MBA?
HEC Paris really, for me, is a school that can be described by the word entrepreneurial in all the positive sense. HEC, since its start in 1881, has been deeply connected to practitioners, to the business world. We've had many CEOs that came out of HEC and still do. So this entrepreneurial spirit is very much part of what we teach, about what our students do, what our participants do. It's also really something I think that qualifies the culture of the school, meaning that at HEC, that is perhaps sometimes the negative part of it, we're not always that necessarily concerned with procedures and processes. If people have a good idea, you can put it into place. And I think that is what I enjoy a lot about HEC. Everything is possible, and we do things. So that is how I would qualify HEC: entrepreneurial and doers.
Right. I mean, you talk about both the entrepreneurial doers. Just a few years ago, Times Higher Ed placed HEC Paris behind Harvard and Stanford, having the most CEOs in the Fortune 500. And then I guess when we look at Station F, Europe's biggest startup culture, the number of unicorns that have HEC graduates. Now, what is it about the MBA program itself that is then fostering this mindset to enjoy that sort of career success?
I believe it's important to state that not everybody will become an entrepreneur when they do the MBA at HEC. And I think that is one of the strengths. We're really looking for a very diverse group of people because we believe that diversity in the classroom is a great value, brings a lot of value, additional value to our program because the managers of today and tomorrow need to be extremely agile and understand these perspectives from people from all over the world. So we bring participants with from this year, we have 56 different countries represented, nationalities. 91% of our students are from outside of France. Participants also come from many different functional industries and functions. So that diversity also brings then that students aspire to very different careers. And the program that we have at HEC allows students to go for all these different careers. We have a core phase where they learn general management skills, and then we have a specialization phase, and altogether that lasts 16 months. So those 16 months really give people the opportunity to specialize in an area that could be either more the core management domains, such as finance, marketing, or management, or in the domains that are core to HEC, where we have built a lot of expertise. Digital, AI, big data is one, sustainability and social innovation is two, and then entrepreneurship, that's three. And I suppose maybe if you say, how come that so many people make it to a CEO? For me, a CEO, a leader, needs to have that broad understanding of different domains, but also a broad understanding of different peoples. And I think our program really offers those two elements.
Right. When we think about the 16 months, as you say, it's not just 1 year. It's not that 2-year more US model. It's a very deliberate choice. And the journey of an MBA student at HEC Paris, personal development, leadership, digital transformation, sustainability, there's so many different options. So how important is the 16 months to be able to explore these different themes?
The 16 months are important to have this opportunity to do these things with enough depth. And then at the same time also not to be out of the workforce for too long. And this is where I believe that the 60 months is a nice middle ground between the 1-year programs, where you really need to know exactly what it is that you want to do when you go in, and that is then what you go after. We give people enough opportunity to explore, and our career center, HEC Talents, is very important with that, where we lead students through 3 important phases: know yourself, know the market, and match yourself to the market. And we are one of these programs where a good number of our students are managing to making the triple jump. So they change country, they change industry, they change functions. And you cannot just do that in 9 or 10 months. You need to have a little bit more time to both acquire the knowledge, but also to acquire the network. And the 60 months, I think, is the sweet spot in order to achieve that.
Right. I know that Tony Summers and the career services team do an incredible job, working with students through all of this. You talk about knowing yourself, also then knowing the market. As you think about key leadership skills that any of your students need to be successful in business or any of their future ventures, does it start with knowing yourself?
I think it starts with knowing yourself and knowing the other one. That is what I mentioned before, right? Our diverse student body forces people to be oriented towards other and to understand where they're coming from. We have when students need to work on cases, they come up with completely different viewpoints. So a leader needs to know themselves, but also needs to deeply understand and be empathetic towards others. I think that's an important leadership skill, in addition to being data-driven. Data-driven, you cannot make decisions only based on your gut feeling. And obviously, these last years have taught us that leaders need to be adaptable and agile.
Right. As applicants to HEC from 60 countries around the world put together applications, they think about future roles, maybe companies they'd like to work for, the career path, and the product manager, the strategy consultant, so many different options. How is HEC Paris then working with them, to develop their skills, their self-awareness, and the advice that you'd give for anyone as they think about taking this next step of the MBA?
Indeed, so we have our regular career center help, what I say, know yourself, know the market, match yourself to the market, but we also have lots of activities around personal development and leadership. We have important moments where students do an outdoor leadership seminar, 2 days that is organized with former militaries, where they're really challenged to test different leadership roles, where they're debriefed all the time about what they do. And students really highlight that as something important, understanding who they are, what their strengths are, and thus also better understanding what it is that they want to do next. We do a social impact project where they need to give back to others, so that I think also really qualifies their leadership styles. Students have the opportunity, if you think about what is it that they want to do next, many of our students these days, differently from a couple of years ago, now do internships. So that's another important opportunity to test out both new functions and new industries, and that helps students to figure out what is it that they want to do next. And then indeed you say, what is it, what kind of advice would I give them? I think the most important advice really is that students that doubt whether the MBA would be a good fit for them, I think don't doubt. The MBA is in general, but at HEC in particular, a program that is really helping students in a transformative journey to look at themselves, to look at others, and to look at the world in a different way. And I think anybody can benefit from that. So I would definitely tell students not to doubt at all, and come do an MBA, and definitely come and do that at HEC.
Right. I mean, you talk about doubts. Perhaps some people think, well, is business the next step, or will I belong in this very, sort of talented group? And they can almost talk themselves out. What do you like to suggest to get to know the school and perhaps just feel more confident and more comfortable about the sort of experience that they could then look forward to at HEC?
So in most MBAs and HEC as well, we offer many opportunities for students to attend webinars, to attend events, to get in touch with alumni, and many of our candidates do, in order to give them this opportunity to taste, try out that culture. Do I fit there? Do the people that do this program, well, I don't want to say resemble me, because that's not necessarily true, but do they challenge me? Would I feel comfortable enough to work with them? And I think a lot of students are actually scared to death when they join the program, but that is absolutely fine, because you're there, and we're there to help you through. Learning doesn't happen if you stay in your comfort zone. If you want to have a transformative journey, the MBA is going to be tough, it's going to be difficult, you're going to be challenged in many different ways. So for students, in order to understand whether a school is a good match with them, I think it's very important that they invest time really understanding what is the culture of the school. And we have the MBAT, that is a particular aspect of HEC where many students are involved in. These are the kinds of things that you can feel, taste, let's say, when you go to webinars, when you go to events. So students should definitely do that homework to make sure that there's a good match. Right. And it also helps us, on the other hand, to understand whether an applicant is a good match with the school.
For sure. And on the theme of diversity, I mentioned to our viewers at Centre Court at the beginning, of course, a distinguished academic career as a professor of marketing at HEC Paris now, and this role as Dean of the degree programs. What I didn't mention is that you have a doctorate from one of the top European business schools. But if we go further back, studies that you did in the US, but you studied theatre, film, and TV at undergrad.
Absolutely.
So, Kristine,
so I'm an example of something where anything can happen to your career as long as you have some confidence and go for it.
So diversity, obviously, how you have then put together the next steps of your personal journey. How are you then looking to broaden that pipeline, and whether people from the creative arts or from life sciences that might all find a place? What are some of the initiatives at the school to diversify the pool?
If we think about the core of HEC and the program that is the longest standing program, which is our Master in Management, that program has since always had this very strong conviction that you can join, the school and then become whoever you want to be. So we have a reverend and people that really have completely different careers than you would expect from people that do a management education. So as we have that DNA, that also is very much part of how we look at the MBA. So when we look at applicants, or when we are in touch with people in the application process, we particularly encourage anybody that has a different profile. And because that diversity of our group is so much a thing that we have done since forever, I believe that when we say that and show that people believe that it is true, that they find that diversity at HEC. So thus we convince people to come. So I'm not sure we do a lot of additional things in order to get all these underrepresented or unusual backgrounds. It is just something that we have been always doing. And because of that, we have credibility when we say that those people are very much welcome in our programs.
Right, the natural DNA of the school. There's a lovely illustration from the MBA T of this year. You had a former professional basketball player who undoubtedly helped the team. And I noted in John's coverage of the story that he took himself off to ensure that everybody in that team was included, that it was a team effort and not just one individual. Is that sort of the characteristic of what you're describing, its diversity and its inclusion?
Absolutely. I think that is an excellent example. And, that is all Moof's credit. It's not our credit. It is Moof who is like this. And because he is like this, there was a fit, there was a match, there was love between him and us when he applied to the program, and thus it works out really well. Someone that embodies that inclusion, and not saying because I'm good at basketball I will be the one that gets the team to win. No, that's not what is important. What is important is that everybody gets to play their part, and in the end we did win. So doing that is just another illustration that this diversity is bringing a lot of performance, actually.
Right. So in your role as Dean of Degree Programs, you mentioned earlier the Masters of Management. It's one of the top ranked in the world. So is the MBA, so is the Exec MBA. You're top ranked as European Business School in the FT. How do you see graduate management education evolving in the coming years?
Ooh, that is a challenging question. I sometimes I wish I had a crystal ball that could say that. So there's multiple things. So I think that the need for graduate education remains. While we could maybe wonder whether the MBA market, and we hear that is the MBA market in decline and stuff like this, I don't really believe that. I'm very much convinced that education is something that remains extremely important, because of all the challenges that we are facing in our society relative to the environment, relative to social inequality. So we need people that understand the history, that understand the broader context, and at the same time that are able to offer solutions that have a real impact. And for that, I'm deeply convinced that education is important. So I believe, if you want to have my I do not lie awake for the idea that we would be out of a job soon. I believe that the need for education is only increasing. At the same time, we will need to continue to work on making that education accessible to everybody. So HEC has a long history in, as we call that, égalité de chance, equal opportunities for everybody. We do it for many, many, many years in France. We are enlarging everything that we do to also open opportunities for everybody online. We have a stand up for female entrepreneurs. We did that always here in Paris, thus reaching a relatively small target group. Now we offer that program online, and all of a sudden the world is our playground. So education is very important, and we need to ensure have a role to play to make that education available for all.
You remind me how fortunate both of us are to work in an inspiring industry. and a very intentional industry. As we think about some of the world's greatest challenges, you know, we will need business to play its role, to come up with those solutions. And at a personal level, perhaps my final question to you, Kristine, for any of our viewers from all over the world and that global playground that you described, just very personal advice. If they're looking to pursue an MBA, should it be international? Where should I look? What would your final words of encouragement to them be?
My final words would be to go for it, you know. And then when you choose any program, you need to make sure, perhaps indeed I need to put it differently. If I'm so focused on diversity, I would actually tell anybody to go and look for a program out of your comfort zone. You know, if you're from the United States, come and do a program in France. That's not comfortable. You know, everybody speaks a language here that you will not understand and people will not adapt to you. So that makes the learning journey complicated. We have many MBA students currently, you know, they struggle. They hoped to land a job in France. It's not that obvious. But if you do that and you go through these kind of learning moments and you overcome them, I think that is really what I would advise students to do. So go for it and try to go the difficult route, because the reward for your transformation will be even more important.
Right. Well, with those encouraging words, thank you for joining us at the Centre Court Festival. To think that you were splashing around in the mud just a few weeks ago with the MBA team. A great experience.
I'll do it again any minute. It was actually so much fun.
And your colleagues will be joining us for other of the sessions during the Centre Court Festival to look at the whole admissions process to the programme. But Kristine, it was an absolute pleasure to have you with us.